It's College Football Daily time. Today we are ranking college teams inside of their conference for 2018. Despite winning the championship, could Alabama be leapfrogged by Georgia with the top recruiting class in the country being infused into a championship roster? In the ACC, Clemson has dominated the past couple of years, but Miami looks to be right on their tails. What should we expect from the ACC now that the U is officially back? And what should we expect from Florida State? Willie Taggart at the helm could spell a comeback season for the Seminoles. In the Big Ten, Jonathan Taylor ran away from everyone last year. Could the Badgers get the best of an Ohio State team with a new quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, expected to take over for JT Barrett? But watch out for Michigan. Transfer quarterback Shea Patterson could bring some chaos to that conference. And finally, in the Big 12, Kyler Murray is here to save Oklahoma with Baker gone. Is it still their conference to lose? And is the water going to flow in Stillwater next season? Tom Harris and Lane on CFB Daily. Hit it.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hello and welcome into College Football Daily. I'm Lena Bond, and these two studs are your college football analysts, Harris Rubenstein and Tom Downey. We have a really fun show for you guys today. We'll be doing some power ranking of all the teams in the Power 5 conferences. Going to be breaking it down by each one. Plus, we'll have a little group of 5 power ranking as well. Before we get into the ACC, we want to go ahead and get at some breaking news coming out of Ann Arbor. Michigan's running back Kareem Walker has been dismissed from the team for violating team rules. Now, we're not quite sure what those team rules are yet. We will have the report for you tomorrow on the Michigan Report at 4 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah, this coming in from our own James Yoder, the Michigan football insider. It is a violation of team rules. Kareem Walker was supposed to be the next big halfback at Michigan. He flipped from Ohio State to Michigan. At that time, he was a 5-star recruit. He would later drop to a 4-star, and he wasn't at the bowl game, and he did not become the running back everyone thought he was supposed to be at Michigan. He barely played this year, 20 carries for 68 yards and a TD. Again, this was supposed to be the next big thing for Michigan. Now he's been dismissed, so I have to go find another program to play for. Not sure yet what that violation of team rules exactly was, but Walker's time at Michigan is over. The good news is for Michigan, they've got plenty of other talented halfbacks on that roster, but for Kareem Walker, it's been a disappointing career thus far.
All right, Kareem Walker is no longer a Michigan Wolverine, and like I said, we will have more information on this report tomorrow on the Michigan Football Report, 4 o'clock Eastern time. But all right, guys, ready to do a little power rankings here in a little bit?
Yes, I am.
All right, so we are going to be starting off in the ACC. You know, it's been a very, very powerful conference in college football the last few years, especially with Miami rising through the ranks this season. So we're going to start at the bottom half, though. So the bottom half at number 14, we have Syracuse coming in. Now, they did have one great victory in 2017 over Clemson, but that was just about it.
Yeah, and they are being able to bring back quarterback Eric Dungy, who had a okay season this year. He had a couple really hot games in there, but since then, nothing much.
Yeah, this just frankly isn't that great of a Syracuse football program. They haven't really shown a ton of success under Dino Babers, who always seems to be linked to other big jobs, but Syracuse is going to remain here a bottom feeder team in the ACC.
All right, so we also have the Cavaliers coming in at 13, Louisville coming in at number 12, and no Lamar Jackson means no production on the field, plain and simple, guys.
I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised if Bobby Petrino does not have a job this time next year. I think he's going to be in the hot seat, because without Lamar Jackson, it's a bad football team.
This team's going to be so bad.
Yeah, not going to be looking good for the Cardinals. Let's move on to our next slate of teams here in the ACC. That was 11 through 14. Let's take it to 10 through 6 now. We have the Tar Heels coming in at number 10, and then Boston College rounding it out at number 6. Harris, what sticks out to you about this ranking right here?
So for me, it has to be Boston College at 6. I think the biggest thing that you have to look at with this group is, not so much who has the best team, but for me, when you're looking at like the middle of these conferences, who has the best player? And if you're telling me out of North Carolina, Duke, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, and Boston College, The best player without a question is Boston College running back A.J. Dillon, who set the entire conference on fire to end this season. Multiple huge long runs. He had 1,000 yards this year also. Somehow got over that moniker despite not starting for the first couple games of the season. He is an absolute freak. I think he's the best player, not the best player in the whole conference, but I think he might end up being the best running back in the conference this year if things go the way they should. He's only going to be a sophomore next year. I think this guy has a universe of talent ahead of him.
I got 2 quick notes here for you. I like the Boston College mention. Georgia Tech is going to extend Paul Johnson.
Yep.
His lawyer announced today that that's on the verge of being finalized. Keep an eye on Pitt and quarterback Kenny Pickett, who took over late in the year and looked damn good. I think Pitt has found their quarterback. He was just a true freshman last year.
All right, and then with Georgia State, Harris, I know you're pretty hot on this team. What can you tell me about Paul Johnson and his contract extension?
Well, when it comes to this team, I think that you just have to look at the overall success of the Georgia Tech squad. I mean, they, for the past couple of years, have really kind of vamped up that program to not necessarily be a national competitor, but at the same time, they're relevant. They're a tough out every single week. I think that we talked about it a bunch of times on this program that, oh, this team is playing Georgia Tech. Whoa, that's going to be a tough one on the road. Or, oh, that's going to be a tough team to beat at home. They have a good offense. Their defense has actually improved every single year the past couple of years. So I think that as this Georgia Tech program continues to grow, remember, if you're in the state of Georgia, you are sitting in probably the top talent pool in the country for football. So they're always going to have good players in state. I think it's good for them to keep a head coach who's been able to keep the program on the straight and narrow. They don't really go outside of the box too much. They do what they can, and they stay inside their boundaries.
All right, Georgia Tech coming in at number 7. Let's go ahead and get into our top 5 now in the ACC. And coming in at number 5 is NC State, and they were a great squad this year.
They were, and I think it kind of begins and ends with quarterback Ryan Finley, who had a really good year for them, and he has announced that he's coming back and not entering the draft. So that is huge for this program. Also huge for this program, Dave Dorn is coming back. He almost left a couple of times, but they got him under a contract extension. I think that's huge for this program. They need to stay relevant in the ACC. They've done a great job of rebuilding this program to get into the upper echelons of the ACC, and I think it's really, really good that they were able to keep their quarterback and keep the coach that's been able to do so well for them.
All right, so at number 5 is NC State. Let's move on to number 4 now, and that's FSU. New head coach Willie Taggart coming in. What do you expect out of him, Harris?
I think Willie Taggart's going to end up being one of the best coaches in the country. I really do. I understand it's, he's left a lot of fan bases scolded and a lot of cold shoulders left behind.
He is talking about us fellow Oregon alumni here. We are a little sour about Willie Taggart.
Everyone is, but I think, look, you give a guy a dream job, the job that he's wanted his whole life. He was a fan of Florida State growing up. He's going to go balls to the wall for this job. And I think that at some point, you just have to accept talented coach, great recruiter, dream job. It all should equate to a fantastic program, a continuation for Florida State.
But quarterback play, DeAndre Francois.
I am still a believer in him.
Okay.
But we don't know what he's going to be. Because, let's be honest, he did look not great against Alabama. It is Alabama. They won the national championship. This and that. But we don't know what he's going to be when he comes back.
I think Francois is going to be fine if he's healthy. He's a talented kid. He's much better than James Blackman. It's all about his health.
All right, Florida State coming in at number 4. At number 3, Virginia Tech Hokies. Harris, why are you smiling over there?
Because Josh Jackson is a monster, Tom. And we've actually talked about him multiple times in the program. He was on our Heisman list this year. I think he might end up being, because I'm not a huge believer in Kelly Bryant. I'm not a huge believer in Malik Lozier. We don't know what's coming from DeAndre Francois this year. I think Josh Jackson might end up being the best quarterback in the conference.
I like them as a sleeper team to win the ACC. I don't think they're actually going to, but I think Virginia Tech was a year ahead of schedule with their success last year. They're going to be a top 15 contender once again this season. All
right, Hokies coming in at number 3 in the ACC Power Rankings for 2018. Let's move on to number 2 now. We have the Hurricanes now. Fantastic year this year for the Hurricanes. Now, we're all wondering, Rozier, what is he going to be able to do next year on the field? Tom.
He's got to be better. And you saw Rozier kind of regress a little bit down the stretch as teams, I think, kind of figured out how to stop him.
Right.
They were missing some key pieces on offense, namely Mark Walton, who's also declared for the NFL draft. So that's going to be a big issue. But we just mentioned for Virginia Tech being a year ahead of schedule. That was Miami this year. This was not supposed to be a team that contended truly for not just the ACC, but for a college football playoff berth. Now, they struggled down the stretch. I think they kind of came back down to earth. But the defense returns almost everybody. They're going to be another top 10 team this year.
Malik Rozier's job for this season is one thing: hand the ball off and do not fumble. Give it to Travis Homer and give it to Lorenzo Lingard. Do not force things down the field. You don't have a great amount of options on the outside. Give the ball off and do not fumble. That's it.
Be a game manager.
Exactly.
All right, Hurricanes coming in at number 2. And by process of elimination, I'm sure you guys figured out that the Clemson Tigers are coming in at number 1 in our ACC Power Rankings looking into 2018. Question is, can Kelly Bryant win games against top competition?
This is a really big, I don't understand why this isn't a bigger question. This Clemson offense is going under a lot of changes this year. They're losing their number 1 target in Kelly Bryant. I don't know if the team as a whole has a lot of confidence in Kelly Bryant right now. They're finally going to unleash Travis Etienne next year. They didn't really do it this year. They're going to unleash him next year. But I think this Clemson offense has questions around it. I don't know if they have the same amount of outside receiver options as they usually have. They don't really have a killer running back. We don't really know what Etienne can do. And I'm sorry, I'm not a believer in Kelly Bryant.
So I saw a comment from my boy Daryl Thacker in the comment section, because Daryl, I think you're exactly right. He said Clemson needs a quarterback, and I mentioned this a couple of days ago on a previous College Football Daily. I think Clemson needs to go away from Kelly Bryant. You've got 2 former 5-star guys in Hunter Johnson and Trevor Lawrence. We saw Hunter play a very little bit this year. I thought he looked really good in that limited time. I was surprised they burned his red shirt for like a handful of passes at most. So I think you take a note from Alabama, and you make a change to a quarterback who's more of a dynamic downfield passer, that whether it be Hunter Johnson or Trevor Lawrence, you make the change to one of those guys, and I think that will be a benefit for Clemson. So I agree with you, Daryl. Clemson make the change at quarterback. At receiver, T. Higgins, going to be a stud.
All right, those were your ACC Power Rankings heading into 2018. Just a reminder, we are presented by Game Time, the number 1 app on the App Store for all last-minute concert tickets, sports tickets, up to 60% off, but we all agree here at Chat Sports, it's a lot higher than that.
Oh, it absolutely is. I went down for a Dallas Stars game, mixing up some hockey here with a little college football show, some hockey talk. I got tickets for about $20. I'm like, all right, let's go see what the scalpers are selling it for. They were trying to sell me for $50. I'm like, no way, guys, come on. I can get 2 tickets for that on the Game Time app. What are you doing?
Game Time, the number 1 app on the App Store. Go ahead and download it today at chatsports.com/tickets. I'm Lena Bond, and these are Harris Rubenstein and Tom Downey, your college football analysts. Before we move on to our next conference, as a reminder that Michigan did just release a report that Kareem Walker has been dismissed from the program for team violations. Now, we're not quite sure what those violations are. We'll have more as we get more information, but he is no longer a Wolverine.
That's coming from our own Michigan insider, James Yoder, and he is a goner. It's been a disappointing career for Kareem Walker, who was supposed to be the next big halfback for Michigan. That did not end up being the case. Guys like Ron Higdon and Chris Evans have usurped him early on in his career. Walker now looking for a new program.
Former 5-star recruit only carried the ball 20 times last season for the Wolverines. All right, so let's go ahead now and move on to our next conference. We're power ranking all the teams in, and that is the Big 12. So awesome team coming out of the Big 12 this year, obviously, with Oklahoma. Let's take a look at what we think is going to look like in 2018, and that's Kansas coming in at number 10, followed by Baylor, 1-win season for them in 2017, and Oklahoma State rounding up this bottom half of teams at number 6.
This Oklahoma State team, to me, is maybe the biggest question mark of any elite program in the country this year. We have no idea what they're going to be this year. They're losing Mason Rudolph. They're losing James Washington. Mike Gundy's got his work come out for him. They have maybe 4 quarterbacks on the roster right now, all of which who could start. They might also be losing Marcel Aitman, who could be going to the draft as well, their number 2 wide receiver, who might just be better than James Washington. We're not really sure yet, but this Oklahoma State team is in a huge area of flux. This might just be like, you know how Michigan State had that weird 3-9 year and then this year back in the top 25? That might be this year for Oklahoma State. The talent just isn't there.
I'm going to tell you how this offense looks. It needs and absolutely must run through Justice Hill, the incredibly talented halfback. He's eclipsed 1,000 yards in both of his first years at Oklahoma State. He is now going to be the focal point of the offense. It cannot and should not look like last year's offense. It needs to be a more run-focused attack. So I don't really know what to make of Oklahoma State. I think they're in for a bit of a down year. By the way, how is Matt Rule getting interviews for NFL jobs? Like, can anyone explain to me what the fascination is with Matt Rule?
Because that Temple team was the GOAT, man.
But, why is the NFL interested in him? Like, he had a year as an assistant offensive line coach. He was the Dwight Schrute of the offensive line team. He was the assistant to the offensive line coach.
Great reference.
I don't understand. So if anyone at home can explain to me, please do. I would love to figure that out.
Hey, Hassan Reddick's had a good rookie year. All right, that's all that they need. One Temple player in the NFL.
All right, those are your bottom teams in the Big 12 looking into 2018. Let's take it to the top half of the teams now. And coming in at number 5 is Kansas State.
It's going to be Kansas State football again. Like, this is going to be a good team that wins a bunch of games. Probably doesn't end up winning the Big 12, but I expect more of the same from Bill Snyder.
They're going to be a tough out again next year. They're just they're a tough team to go up against. I think if you have to go on the road to face them, it's not an easy squad to be. And I think, again, it all comes down to coaching. A lot of the games are going to go into with a coaching advantage. It always matters.
All right, coming at number 4 is the Longhorns, and boys, we expect them to make a comeback
in
the Big 12.
They're kind of back. I'm really interested to see who the quarterback's going to be, though, because they have a great competition this year against Shane Buechele and Sam Ehlinger. I think that both of them are quality quarterbacks. I think they both could start and do a good job, but I don't know if we know. I don't know if Texas knows. I don't even know if they two know who is better out of those two yet. I don't think they know.
I'm kind of, in general, more of a believer that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And I think that's particularly where Texas is at right now. Now, their strengths and weaknesses can kind of overlap. Both can run. Both can have some accuracy downfield. You saw Ehlinger play quite a bit as a true freshman, and he made some mistakes. He was not hitting open guys. He had a big mistake against Oklahoma State that kind of cost him that game. So I would like to stick with one of those guys and just kind of have them be the guy next year. Defense loses some key pieces, but I think Todd Orlando is one of the best defensive coordinators in the nation. He'll get a head coaching job in the very near future.
Agreed.
All right, let's take it to our next team at number 3. We have the Mountaineers. They finished 7-6 in 2017, but we have higher expectations for them looking into 2018.
Tom, you mentioned this about another team, Virginia Tech being a dark horse and maybe take the ACC. I think West Virginia is a dark horse and maybe take the Big 12. Especially with Oklahoma State being down, Oklahoma, new offense with Baker Mayfield being gone. West Virginia, returning quarterback Will Grier, also returning a lot of the receivers on that offense, including, the name is escaping me, David Sills. There you go. So that offense is going to be really good. I think if they can just put together a defense that doesn't give up like 35 points a game, they'll actually be a good team. But this is West Virginia, so they're not going to be able to do that.
Will Grier's health is going to be critical on that. And the return of Will Grier is the big reason why West Virginia will be a popular dark horse Big 12 threat, and maybe even for a couple of the more bold predictions, a possible college football playoff threat. And Will Grier is a stud. He is going to be the focal point of that offense, even though they do lose Justin Crawford, their star halfback.
Consider me kind of stunned that he's coming back this year. I really thought that if he went out, I personally thought he would have been a second-round pick this year.
I think if he comes back, has a really good year, he could kind of vault himself into that first-round discussion. So I actually like him coming back for another year.
All right, the Mountaineers coming in at number 3. At number 2, we have the TCU Horned Frogs, finished 11-3 last season. Great win over Stanford in the Alamo Bowl, and we expect them to keep on rolling in 2018.
Awesome game, by the way. That game was one of the best ones of all bowl season. The question for me is, Harris, what do they do at quarterback?
Exactly.
And quarterback drives so much in college football. TCU has to replace Kenny Hill, and it's a big question mark at this spot.
I think that's kind of where it comes down to. Who is actually going to take it over? Because they might have Justin Rogers coming in, one of the top dual guys coming in.
And be ready to go.
Yeah, be ready to go. We're not 100% sure. But at the same time, I think the entire offense in general is kind of a question mark for them. Kenny Hill, for all the crap that we give him, he smoothed over a lot of things about that offense. They were struggling in the run game. They would throw some read option out there, and he would be able to smooth it out. If they needed to get the passing game going, he could usually hit some short intermediate things. I think he smoothed over a lot of stuff that we overlooked with this TCU team. They eventually got exposed against Oklahoma. So I don't really know what to make of this team next year. I think that West Virginia might have a better team on paper, but I think that TCU defense might be one of the better ones in the conference.
I also really trust head coach Gary Patterson to get the most out of that team.
I'm stunned he's still there.
All right, Horned Frogs coming in at number 2 in our Big 12 power rankings looking at 2018. And at number 1 are the Sooners. Now, no Baker Mayfield, but we expect this offense to keep on being as prolific as it was.
It comes down to one man and one man only, and that man is Kyler Murray. I mean, we don't really know what he's going to be able to do at a starting spot. Look, I understand, and we mentioned this on a couple shows before. Look, we've had a lot of quarterbacks in college push the hype moniker. Baker Mayfield only 6'1", Russell Wilson only 6 foot, a couple of these guys, Johnny Manziel, this and that. Kyler Murray is 5'11". He's not like 5'11" and burly. He's 5'11" and small. So I'm worried about what we're going to be able to get out of him because, look, the Big 12, it might not be the most defensive conference, but, man, they can still hit. They're still going to come after you. You're Oklahoma. You won the conference. You made the playoff this year. And you're throwing out a 5'11" quarterback who We don't know if he can throw the ball.
He's listed at sub 200 pounds. Like, and I want to see what Kyler Murray we actually get.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to get the one who played as a true freshman at A&M and really didn't look that great, looked kind of like a true freshman, but we know he's a great athlete. We saw this with Oklahoma, where they did give him some reps, and he looked great in garbage time against other teams' backups, but I think the question marks surrounded around Oklahoma and the quarterback spot is why you see a lot of the early top 25 don't have them inside the top 5 necessarily. This is still a team that is rightfully the favorite in the Big 12, but if Kyler Murray can't be the Kyler Murray we think he can be, that's the difference between being in the college football playoff and being in the top 10, in the top 15, and winning the Big 12 overall. So Murray is the X factor without a doubt for this team.
And I also think at the same time, CeeDee Lamb is coming back this year, one of the better young wide receivers we have in college football. But look, that Oklahoma defense, as we saw against Georgia, is not good. It just isn't. And they finally broke when they were bending a lot all season long. I'm not really sure what's going to happen next year in terms of when they go up against big-time competition. Are they going to be able to survive against the bigger and better teams? I mean, again, what happens when they play West Virginia next year, Will Grier, David Sills, and they don't have Baker Mayfield to drop 50 points on the other team to save them? Because Baker Mayfield saved them multiple times over the past 2 years. That factor is gone. And unless, Kyler Murray is Tua, we don't know.
And Tua. We'll talk more about that kid later. Is it Tua time? It just might be. Keep on throwing up your reactions, though. We want to know who is your favorite to win the Big 12 come in 2018. All right, one more time, if you're just joining the program, our own Michigan insider James Yoder has reported that Michigan's Kareem Walker, running back, has been dismissed from the team for violating team rules. Now, Tom, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. There was a lot of big expectations for this kid, and didn't really quite live up to him. No,
and it seems like there's always just been something wrong with Kareem Walker, and now he's been dismissed from Michigan. Again, our own Michigan football insider James Yoder is reporting that he has been dismissed from Michigan. He was supposed to be the next big Michigan halfback. He was committed to Ohio State as a 5-star in January 2015, and then he flipped to Michigan later in the fall of 2015 when he was still a 5-star. And then as the recruiting process went on, he kind of went from a 5-star to a 4-star. Didn't look very good really at all in some of those not bowl games, but like the high school hype games, the All-American Bowl, for example. And he didn't look the same. Now, there are some rumblings that there's a drug test here for Kareem Walker, and that's the reason why he's been dismissed. But he is no longer at Michigan, and that is going to be a big blow for Walker. He now has to go elsewhere. It's a violation of team rules. James Yoder is telling me right now, our Michigan insider, it is his 4th violation. That's enough to get him off the team.
Yikes.
So major problems for Kareem Walker.
Kareem Walker no longer a Michigan Wolverine. But speaking of the Wolverines, let's go ahead and toss it now to the Big Ten for our 2018 power rankings. Let's send it to the bottom half of the Big Ten. And coming in at number 12 is a little graphical error, is Minnesota.
Yeah, so we'll kind of break down these here. When I point out here with Illinois, why did they hire Lovie Smith? I never really understood that, so that's an issue there. And then when it comes to Minnesota here, I like P.J. Fleck a lot. He's a heck of a coach, but they are still a few years away from being great.
Yeah, I really want this. Don't you want this Minnesota team to be better? They had so many good games last year, and then they just died.
Rutgers is Rutgers.
Go Rutgers! Go Scarlet Knights.
All right, let's go ahead and toss it to our next group now. Now we have Nebraska coming in at number 10. Now they have Scott Frost, new head coach. Tom, why do you think that he's not going to have the same kind of success at Lincoln that he did with UCF?
Because it's going to take time. Like, Scott Frost is not going to walk into a Big Ten program and automatically make them an undefeated team. That's just not how major conference football works. He is going to make Nebraska a contender in the Big Ten West, but it's going to take a year or two. Adrian Martinez is the 4-star quarterback Frost has landed. He flipped from Tennessee. I think he's going to be great for Frost's system, but you're not going to have a true freshman quarterback lead you into a Big Ten championship with the way Nebraska's built. It'll take some time. They're going to be great, but they're not there yet.
Another team I want to bring attention to, Northwestern, coming in at number 6. Now, they had double-digit wins in 2017. Yeah. Look at them go.
Look at them go. And it kind of has, a lot of it had to do with Justin Jackson, their senior running back, who was a monster. But look out for Clayton Thorson. I think Clayton Thorson this year is going to surprise a lot of people. Wasn't great in terms of touchdown to turnover ratio this year. Turned the ball over a lot, actually, which is why they gave the ball to Justin Jackson so much. But I think Clayton Thorson is going to end up he had a lot of talent coming out of high school, and they just never really been able to fit the offense around him. They've kind of shoved him into this kind of awkward role of game manager, when I really think that if you let him just sling it, he can sling it. But they haven't really given him the chance yet. So this is going to be a cool year for Northwestern. Coming off of a 10-win season, coach is staying, quarterback is here for multiple years, a little bit of a changeover in the offensive style. I think this is an interesting year for Northwestern football.
The good news for Thorson is he's going to be a fourth-year starter, but I've actually never been that impressed by Clayton Thorson. I heard a little bit of buzz he could declare early. I'm kind of like, why? He's just completed 66% for the first time in his career. So Thorson has to take on a bigger role, and he has to step up if Northwestern is going to get back to that 10-win mark when they have to go play Notre Dame out of conference.
Also, for the people at home who are probably wondering why we have Iowa at 8, yes, they are returning quarterback Nathan Stanley. However, maybe the best player on that entire team in Akram Wadley, their running back, the one-cut guy who's amazing for them this year, is leaving. So who knows what Iowa's going to be able to do on offense next year.
Maryland's recruited well. Unfortunately, they have a very tough schedule year in and year out.
All right, let's go ahead and bring it to our top 5 in the Big Ten. And coming in at number 5, a team we were just talking about, the Michigan Wolverines.
Tom, is Shea Patterson going to play this year?
I mean,
that's all that really matters.
That's the million-dollar question. If Michigan has Shea Patterson, the expectation is that they're going to compete for the Big Ten East, the Big Ten, and the college football playoff. If they don't have Shea Patterson, and if Brandon Peters doesn't take a big step forward, then it's the same team where they have a fantastic defense, but the offense has a tough time moving the football. So that's going to be the main concern on Michigan. It's all on the shoulders of Shea Patterson if he's good to go.
I'm really excited to see what this Michigan team is going to bring to the table this year because, look, you can talk about what you want with the Michigan defense, this and that. Mo Hurst was fantastic for them this year. He's one of the best defensive linemen in college football, if not maybe the best defensive lineman in college football. But Rashawn Gary was overall, I think at least, it was a disappointment. Regardless of what you want to say with double teams, this and that, the statistical output was nowhere to be found.
Correct.
And they also have Aubrey Solomon, who's coming in on that defensive line, who's also a fantastic player, former 5-star guy. So I think Michigan as a whole is a fun team that we're going to have, obviously, the magnifying glass here at Chat Sports on a lot. But at the same time, from a broader perspective, this is an interesting program because they were really disappointing this year, and they were pretty disappointing for most of the season. I'm interested in Michigan this year. I think they're going to be a fun team.
Once again, our very own Michigan football insider, James Yoder, has broken that Michigan's Kareem Walker has been dismissed from the team for violating team rules, and he's also reported that it might be a drug test-related violation. And we will have more information on that report as James Yoder gets it from Ann Arbor. Let's go ahead and continue on with our Big Ten power rankings. Coming in at number 4, we have the Nittany Lions.
Tom, I feel like this is too low. There's a part of me,
even without Saquon?
That's kind of the thing. They're losing the best athlete in the country. He's number 1 athlete in the country. But at the same time, they weren't only good because of him. They won games where he didn't perform at all during some of those games.
True.
I think we underrate Trace McSorley. I don't care what he's going to be as an NFL quarterback. As a college quarterback, he is way better than I think we give him credit for.
And I agree with you, and I think he was a little bit undervalued, but now it's a totally different ball game for McSorley. Not only is Barkley gone, his 2 best receivers in Deshaun Hamilton and tight end Mike Gesicki are both gone as well. Yeah. It now becomes less of Trace McSorley, hey, get the ball to your playmakers, and if we need you to go win a game against Iowa late, make that game-winning touchdown. Now it becomes, hey, Trace, you're kind of the focal point of this offense. Can you make the plays game in and game out and helping your guys get open as opposed to them getting open on their own? It's a very different ball game. Oh, by the way, your OC is gone.
Yeah, that's kind of
where it kind of hits. So Penn State is again going to be a top 10 caliber team, but the question is in a loaded Big Ten, which is once again in the mix for the best conference in all of college football, can you get ahead of Michigan State, Ohio State, maybe even Michigan as well, if you lose all those pieces and your OC that really changed the offense? So that's the question marks around Penn State that give me concern. That's why they're 4 and not in the top 3.
We might, the one more thing before we move on. You know how we talked about how Baker Mayfield was surrounded by all those pieces at Oklahoma? We weren't sure if it was Baker Mayfield or the Oklahoma offense.
I agree.
We're same exact situation here with Trace McSorley. We're about to figure out if he was good because of the offense or if the offense was good because of him. We're about to find out.
All right, Penn State coming in at number 4. At number 3, we have Michigan State. Now, a team that absolutely put the hurt on the Washington State Cougars in the Holiday Bowl, and they were looking quite hot.
I'm not a believer. Look,
You're not a believer.
I'm not. Look, they're a talented team. They're good, and I like the coaching staff. But I'm sorry, I'm not a believer in Brian Lewerke. I'm not. I think he had a couple of nice games this year. I think he's a decent quarterback, but I don't know if the team as a whole around him has the talent to put this through 2 years. I thought a lot of the games this year, from a talent perspective, they were behind the team they were playing, but they were able to outcoach the opposition. And sometimes, on a year-to-year basis, if you lose 2 of those games, all of a sudden, you're not in the top 25 anymore. All of a sudden, you're not even in the top 5, maybe the Big Ten. I'm not saying they're going to fall that far this year. I am not sold on Brian Lewerke. And the only way that this Michigan State team is going to do anything next year is if he is, once again, the entire offense. Because I don't think that L.J. Scott is anything special either.
I actually think L.J. Scott's really good, so I don't really know what the hell you're talking about, Harris.
I'm on the other
Felton
side
Davis is a stud as well. Like, this Michigan State team returns pretty much everyone. Like, this is going to be the exact same team that we saw have a great year. They don't play Wisconsin in the crossover games. Their out-of-conference schedule was not very difficult unless you think Arizona State's going to be a good team this year, which we don't think that. Michigan State is going to be the exact same. Let's just accept that Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio is always going to be a good team except for the one fluke here.
Do they have double-digit wins next year?
Yes, they do. They will win double-digit games, especially if Michigan does not have Shea Patterson.
I think they're going to be like Stanford this year, where they're always playing big competition, so they're a little bit above ranked. What Stanford ended like 9-5 this year or something crazy, right? That's what I think this Michigan State team's
apparently 9 wins.
No, it's not a bad
thing.
thing. I'm just saying I don't think that they're this crazy contender that people are making them out to be.
All right, the Spartans. We will see what they do in 2018. Let's take it to number 2 now, and that's the Wisconsin Badgers, a team that finished 13-1 last season. Harris, you're kind of shrugging.
They have the best player in the conference. I'm sorry, Jonathan Taylor is the best player in the conference, and to be totally honest, if we're being real right now, he might be the best player in the country going into next year. We're not really sure. It's obviously difficult because he's a freshman.
Ed
Oliver, but okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, touche. It is Ed Oliver. But if Jonathan Taylor is the best player in the conference and he's the best player on your team, the real question is how far can you really go? Because with how good or bad Alex Hornibrook may or may not be, Jonathan Taylor can really only bring you so far. I think we're in a different stage of college where the only one running back can only get you to a certain point, that eventually you're going to play an Ohio State team that just has more talent than you on the field, and you're not going to win that game.
I mean, I think in the end, you're right. It does come down to Alex Hornibrook. The schedule is going to be a little bit tougher for Wisconsin, but they are very clearly the favorites in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Like, they have probably maybe the best shot to win the Big Ten because they're going to get to the championship game.
Right.
Like, it's not as loaded as the Big Ten East. The big question for Wisconsin, I think everyone knows this, which Alex Hornibrook shows up? The one that looked awful against Ohio State, couldn't complete 50% of his passes with 2 picks and no touchdowns.
Not great.
Or the one that lit up Miami in the bowl game.
By the way.
258 yards and 4 TDs, and he completed 23 passes. He was great in that game. If we get bowl game Alex Hornibrook, this is not just a Big Ten Wisconsin championship threat. This is a legitimate playoff threat that could win the whole thing.
All right, Badgers coming in at number 2, and at number 1, no surprise here, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, they aren't returning J.T. Barrett for the first time in what feels like forever, but they do have Dwayne Haskins at QB, who did look good when he took some snaps in 2017.
You can keep your Dwayne Haskins. Give me Tate Martell. I'm kidding. No,
I would hope so.
We're gonna get a couple of fun Tate Martell plays next year. We're gonna get a couple of crazy stuff from him. It's gonna be all over YouTube, but we'll see what happens with Dwayne Haskins. I think that a lot of people, especially in that Michigan game, he looked good. He looked competent. He came in, got the job done. But at the same time, we still don't know what Dwayne Haskins is going to be. Good prospect, has a good arm, good athlete, but you still got to prove it out there on the field.
Yes.
But the good news is, J.K. Dobbins is amazing. And J.K. Dobbins, behind Jonathan Taylor, is just incredible. I think he might end up being one of the best players in the country.
In the end, with Ohio State, they reload, they don't rebuild. They are going to be a fantastic program once again. They're going to be a college football playoff threat, as they always are.
All right, those were your Big Ten power rankings looking into the 2018 season. We're going to take a look at the SEC up next. Now, obviously, they were the champs this year. They took 2 teams to the playoff, which is the first time ever actually in the history of the college football playoff that 2 teams from the same conference made it. And just one more time, I'm Lena Bond, and these are your college football analysts, Harris Rubenstein and Tom Downey. And we are brought to you by Game Time, the #1 app on the App Store for all last-minute tickets. They have concert tickets, they have museum tickets, they have sporting tickets, up to 90% off. You can literally go see a Mavericks game for $3.
I've used this app for like, I want to say 4 years now, and I've never had to use anything else. This is coming from like a long-time fan of this app. Like, you do not need anything else. It's
5-star ratings all across the board. Go ahead and download the Game Time app today at www.chatsports.com/tickets. All right, we said we're going to take it to the SEC, so let's go ahead and take it there. At number 14, we have Vandy coming in, and rounding up this bottom half of teams is Missouri. Now, one team I want to look at right here is Tennessee. Now, they are bringing in a new head coach in Jeremy Pruitt. Tom, what do you expect out of the Vols this season?
Well, I think this is the year the SEC is won by Tennessee is not going to be the cry.
No.
So I think, unfortunately for Tennessee, the expectations are lower, or maybe that's actually a good thing for them right now, because Butch Jones got them out of the gutter, but it didn't end the program in the best shape. And what I think is going to be another very good SEC year overall, I think Tennessee is kind of near the bottom.
I got to say, the one thing that makes me laugh about this list, Ole Miss is so bad. How Vanderbilt is going to be apparently even worse than
Vanderbilt
that.
loses Ralph Webb, who was the offense.
It's just so funny to me. It's just so sad.
I am glad that Drew Lock is coming back to Missouri.
Yes, but the rest of the team.
But I actually don't know how good Missouri is.
Yeah.
Like, Missouri ended the year really well when they beat up on a bunch of bad SEC teams, including a team in Florida and Tennessee that just were firing their coaches, and then got trounced by Texas in the bowl game.
And just remember that Drew Lock's good twin brother, Andrew Luck, is coming back to the NFL next year and
Still don't get
stealing
that
his
joke.
power back.
Still don't get that
No,
joke.
it makes all the sense in the world.
All right, keep on roasting Harrison comments. We'll take the next slate of teams. We have South Carolina coming in at number 6, and then Kentucky coming in at number 9, and we do have Texas A&M coming at number 8. They do have Jimbo this year. What are your expectations, Harris, with this new coach in this program?
I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this Texas A&M team to really come around. Look, it's a big switch, whether or not you want to admit, obviously, 2 good coaches, but going into Jimbo Fisher is tough. And I think that it's going to be, there's going to be a bridge period for sure with this team. But the problem that Texas A&M kind of faces, and this is just kind of is that they're kind of sitting in the middle of the SEC. But if you look at the other, not necessarily middling teams of the SEC, but the middle teams, like the Mississippi States and the South Carolinas, they're just better on paper than Texas A&M right now. South Carolina has maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the conference with Jake Bentley. Mississippi State has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Florida, even with Dan Mullen now there, also has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball if they can actually get their coaching straight. But Texas A&M has a lot of work to do in order to get ahead of those middle-tier teams if they want to get to the upper echelon of the SEC.
I would say if you want a sleeper to maybe finish second in the SEC, because I think we all know Drew's going to win that, keep an eye on Kentucky.
Okay.
They returned quite a bit of talent. They had a great year last year, and they got the number 2 JUCO quarterback, Terry Wilson, to commit. Formerly at Oregon, he committed over Florida and Nebraska to go to Kentucky. So just keep an eye on the Wildcats as a potential sleeper in the SEC.
Okay, let's go ahead and take it to our top 5 teams. And coming in at number 5, we have the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a 9-4 team last season. But what do you think they're going to do next year, Harris?
Well, it comes down to what happens with Nick Fitzgerald. Like, he had that torrentially horrible Gordon Hayward-esque ankle injury, and we obviously have not seen him since. So I think that he's a very talented quarterback. I think this Mississippi State team in general has a lot of good quality talent on both sides of the ball. I don't know how much star power they have, but the talent is there. The quality is there. They're going to be a tough out this year, especially when teams have to face them on the road. I'm excited to see what the Mississippi State team can do. Dan Mullen is gone. It's a new day for Mississippi State. I
am curious how Joe Moorhead amplifies the offense. Can he get the most out of Fitzgerald as a passer? We know he's a great runner. The passing game isn't always there. They're an interesting team, but I like them in the top 25. They were a good team this year, and I'm a big fan of Moorhead as a coach going forward.
All right, they're coming in at number 5. Let's take it to number 4 now. And that's the LSU Tigers, another 9-4 team in 2017.
Look, in the end, and I think the reason Mississippi State was ranked high is because they had their quarterback figured out. We know LSU has a bunch of talent on the offense and defensive side of the ball, but the quarterback, who is going to play quarterback for LSU with Etling Gong? Not that he was great, but it's a gigantic question mark behind him at the position. That's going to determine whether LSU can actually compete in the SEC West or if they'll win 7, 8, or 9 games again.
And also at the same time, but their fantastic running back core of Darius Geis and Leonard Fournette, obviously now moving on to the NFL, and Matt Canada is gone, which, they just kind of, which was weird in the first place, and then they just kind of gave up on it.
Well, I think that Canada was forced on Ed Orgeron. Orgeron didn't like that, and Orgeron won out. So I don't really know what's going on with the LSU offense. the defense is going to be great again.
I'm calling a bridge year for LSU.
That's fair.
A lot of turnover on the offensive side of the ball. And let's be honest, Danny Etling wasn't that good in the first place.
He was not.
All right, LSU coming in at number 4. Let's take it to number 3 now as the Auburn Tigers. And they were somewhat of giant slayers in 2017, taking down 2 number 1 teams. Do you see them having similar success in 2018? You're shaking your head no.
I do not. I think that the middle of the SEC this year, and I say the middle, I know Auburn sitting at the number 3 team in the conference, but look, they're losing the best player maybe on the whole team in Kerryon Johnson. He did so much for that team this year, and with him gone, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be interesting. I understand Jarrett Stidham, you're talking to one of the top Jarrett Stidham fans in the country. I think he's fantastic. I think he's an NFL caliber QB. But for every great quarterback, especially in the SEC, you gotta be able to run the ball effectively, especially in this conference, and where Georgia's going to be able to run the ball effectively next year. Alabama's going to be maybe the best running team in the country next year. And then you have Auburn, who's throwing out not Kerryon Johnson. So big turnover on the offensive side of the ball. I think Auburn has ways to go to catch up to the
backup halfback Cameron Pelway, who's almost like a fullback. He's so big, also declared for the NFL draft. So the offense now becomes, can Jarrett Stidham make more plays? And there was a direct correlation to when he played well, Auburn won. When he had issues, Auburn lost. Now there's even more pressure on him.
He's no longer dark horse Heisman candidate. He's now officially in the Heisman conversation for next year.
I no longer put any stock in Heisman quarterbacks from Auburn after Jeremy Johnson. So.
All right, now let's take it to number 2 now, the Georgia Bulldogs. And kind of speaking of Heisman candidates, Jake Fromm, he's returning true freshman last year, and he's been in those conversations looking into 2018.
People want to talk all about Jake Fromm and Jake from State Fromm, this and that. I still love the running game, and I love that offensive line. I think the offensive line is only going to get better. So much influx of freshman talent coming in on that team. DeAndre Swift, when they actually gave him the ball, looked pretty fantastic throughout this entire year. And oh yeah, by the way, they're adding Justin Fields and Zamir White, maybe the 2 best offensive weapons in this year's high school class. This Georgia team is going to be awesome next year. It's going to be even better the year after, and then even better the year after that. I think we're watching kind of like what we saw with Clemson a couple years ago, how you saw it was there. They just kept growing and getting better and better. This Georgia team is going to be fantastic.
Georgia is on the precipice of joining what I consider the Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson tier.
Yes.
Where every year they're going to be a dangerous playoff threat, even though they lose a bunch of guys to the NFL because they recruit so well. I think Georgia might be in for a slight down year because the defense is going to lose a couple of notable players, because losing both stud halfbacks. But with Fromm and Swift and a very good offensive line, they're going to win the SEC East, and they might get back to the playoff once again. This is on the verge, if they keep things going, of being a team that is in that mix year in and year out, no matter who they lose.
All right, let's take it to number 1 now, and that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Your 2017 champions. Always seems they're always number 1 in some sort of rankings. But I got to bring up the question here, so I know you're getting excited. Let me say it. Is it Tua time?
Oh, yeah, it's Tua time.
It's Tua time.
I was going to scream, but I knew that Brett was going to get really mad at me if I did, so I'm not going to scream, producer Brett. But it is most certainly 100% Tua time. It is so Tua time that it hurts. He is going to light the world on fire next year. I was watching a lot of his stuff from his Elite 11 camp when he was going through a lot of the different drills and stuff that they would do. Oh my God, this kid is amazing. They didn't even beat around the bush anymore. He can throw it deep. He can throw it intermediate. He can run with the ball. He can play action as well. He's fantastic, and I think that he's still getting better as a pocket passer. And now, by the way, I think he's with the perfect system, with the perfect quarterbacks coach, with the perfect offensive coordinator, and with the perfect head coach. Brian Daboll's, I think, a great offensive coordinator for him. A little bit more on the conservative side, but loves going deep when you need him to. And Nick Saban is going to keep his head on straight. No ego. Keep it forward. Look, there's a reason why this guy was Marcus Mariota's protege in high school. I think that Tua is going to maybe be the best player in the country next year. I'm so excited.
It's stunning to me, and it still is, to see a true freshman quarterback who hadn't played a meaningful snap in his entire career at Alabama, come in and lead a comeback against Georgia in the college football playoff championship, and to do it in overtime on a game where a 19-year-old makes a 29-year-old play where he looks off the safety and gets his receiver open. Like, that touchdown was because of Tua. Yeah, he took the awful sack beforehand, but he's able to lure a senior safety away from the play with his eyes and find another true freshman for a touchdown. The Alabama dynasty has been all of a sudden not just restarted, but just like revamped in the middle of a dynasty. They got a bunch of true freshmen. yeah, they're going to win the title again next year unless they all come in super complacent, which is not going to happen.
You could probably count on one hand the amount of people in college football that could give up a 16-yard sack on one play and then the very next play throw a 41-yard perfect golden throw to win the national championship game. I don't know how many people are out
Showed
there.
a lot of poise, that is for sure. Keep on throwing up your reactions. We want to know who's your favorite to win the SEC in 2018. I'm Lena Bond, and these are your college football analysts, Tom Downey and Harris Rubenstein. Follow them on Twitter. And if you're just joining us, James T. Yoder, our very own Michigan football insider, did just break that the Michigan Wolverines have released running back Kareem Walker from the program. Had just 20 carries in the 2017 season. They had higher expectations for him, but he gone.
He was supposed to be the guy for Michigan. He was supposed to be the next great Michigan halfback, a Mike Hart level talent. And even in a freshman, he was supposed to come in and be the guy. Never materialized. He's had issues off the field. James just recently told to us that it was his fourth violation, likely for drug use. So he has been dismissed from the team, and now he's got to go elsewhere. It's been a disappointing career for Kareem Walker.
Stay off the weed.
All right, advice from Harris Rubenstein. Alrighty, let's go ahead now and take it to the Pac-12, our last Power 5 conference that we were doing power rankings for. And at number 12, a team that just seems to always be in the college football gutter as of late, the Oregon State Beavers.
LOL. I think the Arizona State Sun Devils next year are going to be really funny to watch. Herm Edwards back on the sideline.
Hey, look, you know, Herm Edwards is a Christian. He doesn't get involved in that devil talk. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Arizona State make themselves the Arizona State Suns.
Or the Sun Angels.
Or the Sun Angels, something along those lines. All right, so just keep an eye on that because Herm Edwards is going to be comical in his press conference, and I don't think it's going to work out on the field.
No,
so,
not at all.
But the comedy factor going to be great.
Oh, it's gonna be peak.
All right, Cal, rounding up that bottom list of teams at number 9. Let's take it to our next slate. We have the Arizona Wildcats coming in at number 8, but then UCLA, UCLA, coming in at number 5. Harris, high expectations with this program with Chip Kelly coming in. Will he live up to them?
Not this year. In a couple of years, he will. I don't think they hired him to be good next year. I think they hired him to be good for the next couple of years. The talent overall isn't there. Rosen's gone. They weren't really a great team to start off with, as Tom loves to remind us. But I will say this. I understand that Rich Rod is gone after the calamity that was the Arizona Wildcats offseason. But we talked about, remember how A.J. Dillon we had with Boston College? That's why they were higher. Arizona needs to be higher, regardless of who the coach is. They have the best player. They have Khalil Tate. And I don't know how he's going to do against good competition, nor do I really care. Because against bad competition, he's going to go for like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns every single game, like he did this year. So, look, will they succeed against the USCs and maybe even the Oregons? No. But are they going to put Arizona State into the ground next year? Are they going to plummet the rest of the Pac-12? Yeah, they are. It's going to be awesome.
Arizona State is 8, and I think had they kept Rich Rod, they would have been at least 6 for us. Arizona. And it's because of the uncertainty at head coach. We don't know who their coach is. I don't know how they're going to properly use Khalil Tate. I'll tell you who I want to hire on a purely just meme basis. Exactly. On a purely, I want to see it happen. Hire Butch Jones, and the Territorial Cup becomes the battle for the Championship of Life trophy. And that's what it becomes with Herman Butch Jones building men, not players.
Oh my gosh, you guys are too much. So we also have the Cougars coming in at number 6, so some might argue that's a little low for them. However, they are losing their best player on offense with Luke Falk.
I don't know what this Washington State team is going to do. They were able to keep coach Mike Leake, but outside of that, not really sure.
All right, let's go ahead and take it into our top 4 in the Pac-12, and coming at number 4 are my Oregon Ducks. And I have high expectations for this team, and a lot of people do, especially with Justin Herbert. Now, he was on fire in the beginning of the season, obviously broke his collarbone. Didn't look so hot against Boise State, but Boise State seems to have Oregon's number. Harris, what do you think these Ducks are going to do under Mario Cristobal?
I think the biggest question is not what they're going to do at quarterback, but what's going to happen at running back without Royce Freeman. We know that Oregon likes to run the ball, even when they do have good quarterbacks. They still have a mostly run-based offense, run first, play action, be able to work around that, kind of grow off of that tree. But now it falls a lot on, can Justin Herbert win us a lot of games? And again, Royce Freeman quietly, I think, was one of the best running backs in the country this year. Has been one of the best running backs in the country the past couple of years. Again, like we talked to Baker, smoothed out a lot of issues that they might have faced. This year, we're going to see if Justin Herbert can smooth out those issues. A lot of flip on this offense. Mario Cristobal, no longer the offense coordinator, now the head coach. So there's going to be a lot of difference there. And they didn't bring back Mark Helfrich like they might have. He went to the Bears. But I think this Oregon team has to have a lot of question marks for them. Don't really know what the defense is going to look like. The secondary was bad this year. They got blown out.
Played
by
a
Boise
lot
State.
of young linebackers.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very good linebacking core.
We'll
but
see.
Justin Herbert's going to have them in the mix as a dark horse threat for the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
I like this team a lot.
I like him too. And a couple of names to look at running back, Tony Brooks James and Kenai Benoit are two great running backs for that Oregon Ducks team. Let's take it to number 3 now. We have the USC Trojans. They're losing their quarterback, guys, and that never looks good for a program.
I don't know how good USC is actually going to be.
Thank you.
And I mentioned this on a previous College Football Daily, and I'll mention it again now. I'm not going to be surprised if USC wins like 8 games or 7 games, and Clay Helton gets fired. Like, I actually don't think this team is that talented. The defense is going to be good again, but the offensive line was awful this year. I like Stephen Carr. I like Tyler Vaughns, but there's a giant question mark at quarterback. Yeah, Sam Darnold turned the ball over a lot, but with he and Ronald Jones and Deontay Burnett gone, it's going to be a worse offense. I don't know how good USC actually is.
I agree, but the thing I think that's going to end up being their saving grace is that they've had a couple good recruiting. Not this upcoming one, this wasn't their best, but the past 2 have actually been really good for this program. I think we're going to see this USC program. I don't think there's a lot of names on there right now. I think by the middle of next season, though, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys on that offense that are just like, whoa, we didn't see where these guys come from.
I'll tell you who it is. It's Stephen Carr and Tyler Vaughns, but neither of them play quarterback.
I don't think this team is better than Oregon. That's kind of where it comes for me. That if you put these 2 teams on the field right now, neutral field, I think Oregon wins because they have, again, the best player. I don't think that USC has that star that they need to build around.
All right, a lot of question marks revolving around the Trojan program heading into 2018. Let's take it to number 2 now, and we have the Stanford Cardinal. Now, Harris, you're giving me that look. What do you think they're going to do on offense?
Well, if you have the answer to what Bryce Love is going to do, then
that's your answer.
He should declare.
That's your answer.
I think he should declare.
He should declare. I mean, I don't really think his stock is never going to be higher. But at the same time, if he does leave, I don't think it's the end of the world because Stanford found a quarterback. They found KJ Costello, who had a great year, at least end of the year.
But
He's got to take a step forward.
He does. We saw what Stanford had on offense without Bryce Love against Oregon State. And they almost lost to that team, and Oregon State was absolutely terrible last year. I don't know how much production this offense can see without Bryce Love.
I think on a season-to-season basis, they're going to change their offense. I think David Shaw, one of the better offensive minds I think that we just have in college football in general, just coaching minds in general. I think he's going to look at his team and say, we can't just run the ball 30 times a game anymore. We just can't do it. We don't have the personnel. The offensive line isn't really there as much anymore. They're losing a couple offensive linemen to the draft, but they have KJ Costello. And I think they believe in this kid enough to take that step forward. They do have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball as well. I think that they're going to have one of the better defenses in the Pac-12 next year. So hush-hush on their defense. But again, I can't claim this enough. Keller Christ was not good.
No,
as soon as they put KJ Costello in, that game against USC that he had was stunning. I was so impressed. He looked a little bit better than Sam Darnold did in that game. So they're going to change their offense. I think they have more talent than USC does. I'm excited for the Stanford team next year.
All right, the Cardinal coming in at number 2, and at number 1 we have the Washington Huskies. They're bringing back Jake Browning, and that's all we really need to say.
There's a good chance I think Myles Gaskin might end up back as well, but they're going to lose Dante Pettis. They're going to lose some notable guys on that defense. Taylor Rapp, who you see on your screen, is also back in the secondary. They were banged up this year, and that's the reason why they lost some games they shouldn't have lost. Trey Adams, their stud left tackle, went down. You'll see him on Sunday. He's going to come back because he missed his year. The big key for Washington, kind of the key I think for a lot of the teams just outside the top 10, how does he fare now that he has to be the guy most likely? Like, he has to take a step forward in his ability to make the plays rather than get the ball to his playmakers.
I don't want to say that Chris Peterson has molded the same quarterback twice, but Chris Peterson has molded the same quarterback twice in Kellen Moore and with Jake Browning.
Jake Browning.
I don't mind that comp.
Sad face. Like,
I don't mind that comp.
He's done the same thing with the 2 best quarterbacks he's been giving. I like Chris Peterson. I think he's a good coach, but we can't overlook the fact that he's created 2 quarterbacks that have no NFL future whatsoever.
I mean, remind you, Jake Browning broke nearly every single high school quarterback record in the state of California at his time at Folsom.
Yeah, he was a beast.
He was a beast, and he has it in him. He's a competitor.
Doesn't have the arm strength.
Nope.
The arm strength is not
That's
there.
the weakness.
We want to know who is your favorite to win the Pac-12 next season. Go ahead and throw up your reactions. Who you guys got?
I want Stanford. I think Stanford next year is going to take a big step forward. They have a bad incoming recruiting class. So I think that they kind of know that, all right, we got to vamp it up this year and next year before this class really takes over as the chief class that we have right now. But I think Stanford's going to be a really, really good team next year.
I got Washington. I think Chris Peter's going to have them again at the top of the Pac-12.
Okay.
All right, if you're just joining us, our very own Michigan football insider James Yoder just broke that Kareem Walker has been dismissed from the Wolverine program for violation of team rules. He did also break that it was most likely a drug test related violation, possibly even failing 4 drug tests.
It's his 4th violation of team rules, and 4 strikes and you're out for Michigan football program.
All right, that is that. And one more time, we are brought to you by Game Time, the #1 app on the App Store for all last-minute tickets. Go ahead and get your your app today at chatsports.com/tickets. We're not quite over yet, guys. We do want to quickly power rank the group of 5, top 5 we have for you guys going into 2018. So let's take a look at this list. We have the Army rounding up the bottom, or the 5, and then we have UCF, a team without Scott Frost, at #1.
You know what? I don't know if it matters because Mackenzie Milton is going to be a monster next year. I'm really excited to see what he does without Scott Frost.
It does matter that Scott Frost is not there. Going from Scott Frost to Josh Heupel is a drop-off because Scott Frost was incredible.
Yes.
And I don't mean that as a slight against Heupel, but we haven't seen him. We know what Scott Frost did this year. They will not go undefeated again next year.
You know who else? I got to say, I was wrong a good amount of times this year.
Here we go.
Lane Kiffin and FAU were really good this year, and they're going to be really good next year.
Now, if you haven't watched a bunch of our previous college football shows, Harris here after like week 2 just ripped into Lane Kiffin and said it was awful. The offense was doing nothing, and then after that they went off. And I think FAU, with a schedule that sets up to win against some notable teams, if they can win those games, they're going to be in the mix beyond just the New Year's Six Bowl. They have an actual outside shot of being the group of 5 team that can finally get more discussion than UCF got to get in the college football playoff. Now, I think this year proved that it's not going to happen, but the buzz will grow louder if they do it.
What a world it would be where FAU, the
4 seed, led by Lane Kiffin, plays Alabama.
That's so funny.
And again, here, I'm going to remind you that they play Oklahoma. So if they beat Oklahoma, you're going to hear kind of like what we saw with Houston a few years ago. All of a sudden, they get the buzz of, hey, this team could be in. I just want to see #4 seed FAU, led by Lane Kiffin, play #1 seed at Alabama, led by Nick Saban. I think it'd be great. Absolutely hilarious.
Oh, my God. Tua versus FAU would not be pretty. Oh, my God.
All right, so those are your top 5 for the group of 5 in our 2018 Power Rankings. I am Lena Bond, and these are your college football analysts, Tom Downey and Harris Rubenstein. Follow us on Twitter, and that was College Football Daily. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you missed anything about Kareem Walker or any of our Power Rankings, we're going to loop it back at the top of the hour, so don't you miss a thing. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.